The man addressed the hero, saying that today the boy turns 15 years old. The hero nodded in response and congratulated him on reaching a new stage in life. The hero thanked the man and wanted to say more, that new adventures awaited him ahead. But Otto von Edverl, the Marquis of the Borderlands, stood nearby. He interrupted the hero with interest and asked what he meant, while at the same time taking a bottle from the guard. He said that on this day the hero must die, and forced him to drink poison. This hero was Ron von Edverl, who was only 15 years old. In the darkness of the dungeon, someone invisible slowly approached, footsteps echoing in the silence. The guard greeted Mr. Felix with a smile. He asked if the main hero was all right. The guard reported that everything was going according to Mr. Lur's orders. The man shared that his younger brother, Mr. Ron von Edverl, died from poisoning. The young man kicked the hero in the face with force, then shouted to the guards not to dare address him as Lord. According to him, this trash had no relation to the Edver family. About an hour ago at the estate of Marquis Edverl, located in the kingdom of Yugdian, in the Ill region, in Mariella County. In the very center of the dark cellar stands an iron cage. The hero looked at the jug and said that probably in this place, his life would come to an end. This troubled him as he had just turned 15 and had never been on a date. The hero carefully poured wine into a glass then, while no one was watching, sprinkled poison into it. He firmly ordered again, "Drink this and die." It was hard for him to understand why everything happened exactly like that, but deep down in his soul, he knew his future was determined even before his birth. In this country, for the aristocracy, the most important things were lineage and magical abilities. The boy's mother worked as a servant and was the concubine of Marquis Eduardo. Although he was born into a noble family, as an illegitimate child, he was unwanted by anyone and remained lonely from an early age. He had an older brother and sister, children of the lawful wife, who inherited the pure bloodline of the family. Both had magical gifts from birth. Everything important for a true aristocrat, magic and noble blood, they had in full measure. And young Master Felix stood out with one more feature. He possessed the power of water magic. But the hero found himself in a completely different situation. He turned to the magic inspector and asked what rules applied here. In response, he was explained that now there would be a test of his magical abilities. That was why he was invited here. He explained that magical talent can be revealed in two ways. The first way is a divine sign. If someone has a strong affinity for one of the four elements, fire, wind, water, or earth, a special mark appears on their body, indicating this. But the hero did not have this mark. The inspector explained that the magical mark appears only on the chosen ones, so there was nothing strange about that. For those like him, there is another way of testing, which most people use. However, most likely, the result this time would also be predictable. This test is only a formality. He advised the hero to first raise his hand to the flame of a candle. If he does not feel the heat, it means he has abilities for fire magic. The hero carefully listened to the advice and did everything as told. The hero could not withstand the heat and screamed, but the man next to him calmed him down and said that fire was not suitable for him. He explained that this was only a compatibility test with the four elements. Such are the rules here. Now the hero awaited 3 more trials with the other elements. At the end, he confessed to Ron that he had no abilities for any of the 4 main elements. The man was pushed and fell to the floor with a dull thud. The young man called Ron good for nothing and said that he was not part of the Edwards family at all. As he left, he threw to the hero not to even try to sit at the table with them. After that, the family continued dining, calmly discussing what a disgrace it was for the Marquis's house to have a son who could not do magic, and moreover, was impure, because he was a bastard from a concubine who always walked around dirty. The woman admitted that she felt unwell even when she just sat at the same table with the hero. He was born unwanted and always felt superfluous in this world. He was not allowed to leave the house, and no one was informed about his birth. This is a person whom seemingly no one notices, as if he is just a shadow among others. But despite everything, he was not destroyed, but left among the living, and the boy believed that this happened thanks to the kindness of his father. As long as the head of the family showed mercy, the young man lived with the hope that one day he would be recognized as one of their own. For 15 years, hope has been beside him. He endured all this again and again, even when faced with contempt, hatred, and disgust. Ron responded by sliding a glass with poison. He stared intently at this liquid, not taking his eyes off it. He recalled how cruel his father was. As the Marquis of the Borderlands, he could not kill his relative, even if he was an illegitimate son. That would have been considered a great disgrace. The father simply wanted him, upon becoming an adult, to leave this life on his own. For 15 years, they kept him here like cattle, only to preserve the honor and pride of the family. Hearing this, the hero could not hold back tears and reflected on everything that had happened. He swore indignantly, tightly clutching the cup in his hands, which noticeably trembled. The boy raised the cup to his lips and took a sip. Having drunk it all to the last drop, he sat at the table and began to wait calmly. He looked at his hands in surprise, not understanding why nothing was happening. Then he suddenly laughed and said that it was not poison at all. Suddenly, a sharp pain passed through his entire body. He fell to the floor, accidentally knocking bottles off the table with his hand. He was barely breathing, and his eyes wide open from pain were fixed on the floor. His whole body felt like it was burning with fever. He was overwhelmed by unbearable itching. He shouted that he was extremely hot, as if his back was burning with fire, and he could not understand at all what was happening to him. The hero turned his head to the side and suddenly noticed something unusual in the mirror. He turned around to look at his bright back and suddenly heard a voice. The message announced that he had mastered the magic of poison, and its neutralization would begin soon. The voice said that the neutralization was complete, and now the hero could use the poison that weakens opponents. He couldn't understand what was happening, and suddenly remembered how his brother Felix once received a magical seal. The hero paused for a moment, pondering, is everything really as he imagines? Without thinking long, he quickly took off his clothes. Peering into the mirror, he saw a bright mark on his back that resembled a dragon. Not believing his eyes, he instantly realized, before him was a magical symbol. He could not understand why these strange marks appeared on his skin and what kind of strange, poisonous witchcraft had affected him. He remembered the words of that man, to master magic, you first need to feel its touch. However, the current law forbade using magic beyond the four main elements. The hero realized that all these mechanisms operate on pneumatics, and that is why he had not suspected his talents before. Moreover, if he had not accidentally drunk the poison, he would never have discovered his immunity to it. He laughed and said that his father himself decided it was better to poison him than to kill him with fire or a bullet. He was truly grateful to his father for such a decision because it meant his life was not yet over. Another problem appeared. The hero did not understand at all how to escape from here. He had almost no time left. He had no idea when the guards would return to check if he was still alive. And even if he managed to deal with them, the entire estate was still full of patrols. The hero immediately realized, if he was noticed, Edvar's family would immediately try to destroy him. They are all true magical geniuses. He knew well that in case of a fight, he would simply be destroyed on the spot. Even having poisonous magic, he could only gradually exhaust the opponent, but definitely could not repel them in an open battle. The hero almost lost hope, as it seemed to him that all efforts were in vain and there was no way to salvation. Constantly trying to escape and feeling the bitter taste of helplessness, he finally realized which path he needed to choose. He decided if he could not get out unnoticed, then he would simply leave the estate openly. Whether this would help him, he did not know, but he had no other way. Now the hero was just lying on the floor, not moving at all. He pressed his boot to his face and said what he thought, as if he would try to deceive and pretend he drank poison, then run away. But as it turned out, he was completely wrong about his intentions. Felix von Edwarl, head of the ancient Edwarl family, announced that the shameful impure blood that had long disgraced their house had finally disappeared. He silently watches Ron's body, as if hoping that something incredible will happen now. He clicked his tongue discontentedly and muttered that the hero's face was too calm for a person who died in agony, and it annoyed him. Moreover, he began to have doubts. Did the hero really die, or was he just pretending? Felix used water magic along with the spell Blade Pistol, and at that moment, the hero's body shattered into pieces. The spells completely enveloped his body, and nearby the motionless Ron was still bleeding. Felix continued to watch attentively and noticed that nothing was happening. It seemed he was truly dead. Finally, when he calmed down, he ordered to take his body and his mother's ashes to the common cemetery and just throw everything there. The soldiers silently obeyed his order. The soldiers lifted Ron from the floor. Blood was flowing from his hand. Felix suddenly stepped in, noticing how the floor had already become dirty. He sternly said that the bloody body must not be allowed to soil the entire house. With bitterness in his voice, he added that he did not like it at all, but he would have to treat the poor fellow. While the soldiers held him firmly, Felix gradually regained consciousness. Suddenly, the hero's hands became completely clean. Not even a trace of blood or scars remained. After that, Felix ordered to drag him away. He closed his eyes and said it was time to return to his duties, as becoming the next head of the family was a great responsibility. Later, the soldiers reached the cemetery and threw the sack on the ground. One of them grumbled that the road from the wagon parking to the cemetery seemed long to them. They decided to leave the sack right there for now. Someone else said that he did not even expect anyone to come to say goodbye, but customs demanded it. They agreed to return in 3 to 4 days to bury him, and for now decided to stay away. Darkness had already fallen around, and the place seemed scary. One of the men reminded that Felix promised a reward, so they could go somewhere and have a little drink. The second just silently nodded. As soon as the guards disappeared from sight, the hero carefully cut open the sack and quietly peeked through a small slit. Before his eyes appeared a gloomy cemetery. When he finally got out of the sack, he sighed with relief and said that now he was safe. The hero glanced at his hand, recalled his decision, and began to cast a spell. The hero realized that sneaking away would not work, so he decided to leave the estate openly. He consciously drank a weakening poison and allowed it to start working. The hero did not know if he would succeed, but still managed to bring himself to a state almost indistinguishable from true death. The hero, as planned, managed to escape from the estate, and his greatest joy was that his mother escaped with him. Having made a cross for his mother, the hero knelt down and began to pray, rejoicing that he managed to get out of the estate alive. But what to do next, he understood well. To survive, he needed to find out how the magical poison worked. It is very risky to stay here. If someone finds out that he did not die, they will not forgive him and will definitely find him. First, he should escape from the territory of Lyra, which is ruled by Kajet. And if he is lucky enough to reach the coastal edges of Astasia, he will be able to go even further, away from danger. The hero was confident that he could survive. In his thoughts, he already said goodbye to his mother and decided to move south. The choice was made, there was no turning back. He needed to learn to use poisonous magic so that no one in the Marquis's house would suspect it, and then set off for Astasia. In another room, a maid with a knife in her hand suddenly approaches Mari von Astasia. She ominously predicts Mari's death and sharply raises the knife, preparing to attack. The girl screamed and begged him to stop. The hero carefully examined the paralyzing mushroom, pondering, if you eat it, will you really die immediately? As soon as the system notified that the poison was removed from his body, he immediately fell lifeless. Just as the main hero predicted, as soon as the poison entered his body, a heavenly voice sounded in his head with a message. It became clear that when the poison is gradually neutralized, the system begins to analyze it and grants access to the poison's magic. Now the hero only had to patiently wait until the poison completely disappeared from his body. A huge monster was advancing from the forest toward the hero, maliciously showing its sharp fangs. The hero was gripped by panic. His body remained motionless due to paralysis, and he could not even move a finger. He scolded himself for not being more careful and not taking care of his safety. The process of getting rid of the poison was going too slowly, and every second felt like an eternity. The hero prayed in despair for it to end soon, but the monster had already widely opened its jaws, and the hero realized there was almost no time left. However, even before the terrible monster could touch him with its sharp fangs and claws, it suddenly fell dead right beside him. The monster fell dead, widely opening its jaws, and remained lying near the poisonous mushroom. Unexpectedly, another monster appeared from the darkness. It began to sneakily mock the creature wounded by the poison. The main hero lay nearby and silently watched this terrible spectacle. He was seized by horror when suddenly a snake appeared before him, covered in blood. From the right head dripped poison that immediately paralyzed the victim, and the left was already ready to suck all its blood. Finally, the neutralization process ended, and the paralyzing poison took effect again. The hero sharply got to his feet and quickly retreated backward. The hero thought about that poison capable of destroying Vandy Vovk. He understood, in the future it would definitely be needed. Firm in his decision, he decided to find this deadly substance. But at the same time, he knew he could not risk letting the enemy get too close, otherwise the snake attacks would suck all his strength before the poison took effect. In that case, he might not survive. He wondered if his new paralyzing poison could stop the snake if he managed to quickly apply it and then hide in a safe place. The hero found himself at the very edge and realized there was no turning back. The moment for decisive actions had come. Without hesitation, he rushed into the very heart of the battle, taking with him a paralyzing poison. Some time passed. In the capital of the Duchy of Astasia, the city of Kranoff, the boy approached the registration desk. The girl behind it informed him that becoming an adventurer cost 1 silver coin. The young man handed over the required amount, and the registrar politely asked to see his personal nameplate. She looked carefully and once again confirmed whether his name was truly disgraced. Having confirmed this, the girl returned the nameplate to him. The boy, receiving it back, thought that he would like to change his name so as not to reveal himself. However, he understood, because his name was recorded on the spiritual nameplate in the temple, simply inventing a new name would not work. He really liked that only his name was on the list, so no one would find out that he belonged to the Ed Vorgal family. The name round is quite common in this world. The girl asked which class he wanted to join, and he said he would become a ranger who was well versed in various poisons. The girl was genuinely surprised, as this was rare. He asked if it was true, although he decided to keep to himself that he possessed poison magic, just in case it aroused suspicion. The girl said that now was a great time to earn money, because prices for poisonous herbs and antidotes had risen sharply. They would pay especially well for those antidotes that could not be found in the duchy. The boy was surprised and asked why this was so, but the girl did not want to explain. She only quietly said that this conversation was a completely different story. Then the young man immediately understood. She was not going to share this now. She wished Ron incredible achievements in distant travels, and he, standing on the threshold of a new adventure, thought that too loud a fame could later bring him not only joy, but also unexpected difficulties. He was well aware that if someone from the Ed Vorgal family appeared before him on the battlefield, he would definitely need a strong poison to fight back. Therefore, the boy decided to secretly stock up on various poisons. Two men were talking and one of them praised the Dutch woman, saying, "A wonderful thing brought poison, got paid, nothing complicated." The main hero finally understood why the girl at the reception hesitated so much. All this somehow related to that Dutch woman. So the hero stopped the stranger to ask him in more detail. The man asked how he could be helpful, and the hero, showing a coin, inquired if he knew anything more about poisons. Meanwhile, nearby, a man loudly called the next in line. Before him stood a soldier of the Duchy of Estesia named Land and Fall, who was an apprentice to the Duke's personal doctor. Land immediately informed that this one had already been taken away, so the next should wait and come later. Fall explained that he was simply given an ordinary sleeping pill, trying to pass it off, but the deception failed. Land irritably remarked that there were only fraudsters around. At that moment, Knight approached him and said that only one person remained. Land allowed him to be admitted. He added with displeasure that he had already examined over 100 people, but none were suitable, so he would probably have to look for a healer elsewhere. Fall noted that in these parts there were no real healers who could help. Knight said they needed an even more famous person. The doctor assured that they were already searching for such a person, but from abroad it would take at least a month for them to arrive. Then Knight asked if the princess could endure that long. He learned that the last one, named Rond, was known as a master of poisons, recently arrived in the city and joined the ranks of adventurers. It was said that he was well versed in various poisons. Hearing this, Fall just shrugged. It was unlikely to expect anything interesting from him. Most likely, he would just offer some simple tincture on aspirin herb. Ron approaches closer and greets them. Land cut off his chatter and asked clearly, "How can you help?" This was a chance to prove himself a hero. He recalled how a traveler told him that the Duke's daughter was poisoned, and her condition worsened every day. The Duke was desperately looking for any healing remedy or magical item that could help save his child. The hero pondered, to escape the Edwhirls, it was best to find protection under the wing of someone influential. If he managed to cure the Duke Anastasia's daughter, the Duke might possibly side with him. However, the hero was well aware that he needed to be very careful in his actions. In the city hero, a difficult question arose. The secret he could tell was very dangerous. It could ruin his life if the wrong people found out. But if he managed to cure the Duke's daughter, he could gain the support and protection of the entire ducal family. Land thought the hero was just trying to lower the price, but he turned out to be more cunning than he seemed. In response, Land noted that he promised nothing but was sure. Parents' love for their children is always the same. These words were enough for the hero. He only asked to find someone on whom the poison's effect could be tested. On the ground, curled up in pain, lay a man. Land could not understand what had happened, as a moment ago he was completely healthy. Fall said he noticed the hero did something but could not explain what exactly happened. Land looked at the man who was dying, then turned to Ron with a direct question. What does he really want? Land still did not understand Ron's intentions, thinking maybe he came to trade dangerous poison and was even ready to buy it if necessary. But Ron repeated the same thing again. All he had wanted from the beginning was a guarantee of safety for himself in exchange for the antidote to save the Duke's daughter. The knight confidently stated that it was impossible. After such a betrayal, he would not allow a stranger even to approach the princess, but the latter replied that he could prove his abilities and heal her. However, if they themselves were convinced of this, they would also become part of this story. The stranger asked if they were ready to take on such responsibility. The knight noticed that the hero was again trying to appear more important and began to urge him, saying, "Come on, show quickly what you have." Hearing this, the hero finally dared to act. The hero turned around, and everyone noticed a dragon drawing on his back. Lan immediately hurried to assure that they were not some robbers to stare at others' symbols, but Fall immediately recognized the dragon as a magical sign. However, the very appearance of this dragon was unknown to him. He had never heard of such a symbol before. The hero bent over the poisoned man and used magic that neutralizes the effect of poison. It was a substance that takes away strength. Lend could not hold back and shouted loudly when he saw the dragon begin to move. The man stood up and exclaimed with relief that he had been saved because he already thought there was no chance of survival. He laughed nervously, not believing that all this had really happened. Then the hero explained. His abilities were in no way connected with magic, and honestly added that he dreamed of becoming useful as soon as possible. After that, he timidly asked if he could meet with the Duke himself. Before him sat Duke von Actasia. He said that it was the first time he had seen the dragon form of the magical mark with his own eyes, which everyone had only heard about from rumors until now. He recalled hearing about the hero's poisonous abilities and asked for a more detailed description. The hero replied that he was able to control the poison he himself had once taken and could even neutralize those poisons he had already learned to control. Fatten said that the villain's blade still had poison on it, which had poisoned Mari. He asked the hero if he could help the daughter if he absorbed the poison himself. The hero replied that he would most likely be able to do so, but his powers had only recently emerged, so he did not know how strong they were. The man hesitated for a moment, but understanding that other healers did not inspire his trust, he had no real alternative. He clarified whether the hero was really asking for protection for his home in return, and heard an assurance in response. Ron, though brave, directly asked to be told who he really was. Over time, the Count realized that Ron not only possessed a non-magical system, but was also a descendant of Marquis Edward. It turned out he was asking them to dare, risking starting a dispute with the powerful House of Edward. Glancing at him, the hero suddenly decided to refuse. He said that as soon as he regained strength, he would immediately leave this country to avoid causing anyone unnecessary problems. Meanwhile, a temporary shelter would suffice for him. The man pondered. The hero worried in his thoughts whether he had made a mistake with the answer, one slip, and he would be mercilessly expelled from the Edvari house. They exchanged glances, and then the hero realized his life was in danger, as the people around thought he possessed dangerous, deadly magic. He could be executed. The man eventually agreed to help, and now he was being asked to save a daughter named Kure Muri because they believed only he could help her. Ron smiled warmly and assured that he would do everything possible. After some time, Rondi was brought a knife that had been used during the attack on Mrs. Marie. The poison on the blade had already dried, but it was still harmful. The hero said he would first try his usual method. Drink the poison, and if he fainted, he asked to be carried to the bed. Land gently calmed him, assuring that there was no reason to worry. Everything was already arranged for him. A separate guest room awaited him where he could rest peacefully. Ron recalled the poison that no one could reliably neutralize or take without danger. The memory immediately brought back the pain when he first tasted the blood snake poison and tried to control this deadly potion. Ron had no idea how much poison his body could endure. Using a strong poison was always dangerous. If the substance on the blade was much more lethal than usual, he might simply not have time to take measures and die. However, if he retreated now, the dream of a happy life could be forgotten. Felix from the Edvarl family came here because he had long dreamed of finally becoming free. The hero ran his tongue over the sword blade, and the very earth around groaned from unbearable pain. But it was already too late to change anything. The hero staggered and fell to his knees. At this time, the system continued to report that the poison in his body was gradually being neutralized. The hero opened his mouth and screamed silently from unbearable pain. Lind asked Rhonda if he was all right. Rhonda managed to gather his strength and replied that everything was fine, although the pain still did not let go of him, even despite the effect of neutralization. He collapsed to the floor from even stronger pain, began rolling around, scattering and breaking everything around him. He grabbed a shard of a vase with his bare hand. The sharp edges cut his skin, and blood flowed from the wound. The hero closed his eyelids, and the earth itself seemed to address him, anxiously calling his name. The neutralization was still ongoing. Eventually, the poison finally disappeared, and the wonderful skill Schleiab began to work. Now the hero could check what was happening with the target. The hero learned to use magic attacks related to poison. For healing, light poison is now used. Poison was no longer forbidden and became a common tool. The hero looked at his hands and said anxiously, "What a treacherous poison they prepared to destroy the Duke's daughter." The hero learned that this poison belongs to a rare dragon species that appears only once every few years. This creature is extremely dangerous, and no one has yet managed to defeat it. Its poison is so strong that one careless step can cost a life. However, even in this difficult situation, the hero managed to survive. When he woke up and got out of bed, his body was still trembling. He noticed with surprise that he was wearing different clothes and wondered how long he had been asleep. Lend entered the room and noticed that Ron was already awake. As soon as Lend entered, Ron immediately said that they needed to leave for the lady as soon as possible. When the hero finally woke up, the Duke was already waiting for him. He said that he had slept for a whole 3 days. The hero sincerely apologized and explained that he had underestimated the effect of the poison. It turned out to be much stronger than he had hoped. When asked if the hero would eventually be able to overcome the poison, Ducast confidently said that it would not be a problem for him. They approached the door of Maria's room and stopped. The Duke addressed the main hero, emphasizing that the poisoner was their last chance and asked him to do everything possible. The hero assured that the man can confidently expect a wonderful result. They entered the room and quietly approached the bed where the princess lay. The Duke took the governess by the hand and asked her to wait a little longer. After that, he addressed the hero, saying that he relied on him. But the Duke warned everyone, if anyone makes a suspicious move, he will immediately use magic without hesitation. The hero enthusiastically promised that he would definitely remember this. After that, he apologized and stepped forward from behind the Duke to address Mari. A young girl rested on the bed. Suddenly, a small window appeared before the girl with information about her. It displayed her name, details about the eagle coat of arms, and wind magic. In the health status section, it was written that she was poisoned with a weak poison, and out of all 43 health points, she had only 5 left. The hero was surprised when he saw her status. He thought that this was probably one of the dragon abilities related to poison. He noticed the soft orange light flickering around her body. This light likely indicated the effect of slow healing magic, which helped her hold on a little longer. But even with these spells, the girl was doomed and would soon die. The hero reached out to her, firmly determined not to let this happen. He knew that the poison on the blade came from the purple dragon, and only the poison of the green dragon could neutralize it. Although everyone believed that there was no cure against the poison of the purple dragon, undefeated so far, the hero decided to prove that this was a mistake, and was ready to do it right now. The hero pronounced a spell, and the poisonous breath spread through his body like a river. The Duke froze in place, staring in amazement at the bright light. The hero gently touched the girl's hand, releasing his magical power for a moment. He used protective magic to neutralize the dragon's poison. The hero, falling to his knees, realized that a single attempt to break the spell had drained most of his magical energy. If he tried to add more power, he might become completely exhausted, but now he could neither stop nor retreat because he knew he had to win, so he decided to give his last strength to save her. The hero spent all his magical power, and the girl gradually came to life. The Duke anxiously addressed his daughter. Dark magical worlds swirled around the entire bedroom. Finally, silence came, and all the magic disappeared as if it had never been. The Duke looked at the hero with surprise, who was breathing heavily and trying with all his might to catch his breath, hoping to find out what was wrong with him. Looking more closely, he saw that his health had risen to level 17, and his body condition had become excellent. The hero smiled, for everything worked out. He managed to cure her. The Duke approached his daughter, and she finally opened her eyes. The girl called her father, and he happily told her that everything finally worked out. The hero watched everything from afar, then quietly left, leaving them alone. Some time passed. The Duke sincerely thanked Ron once again, and informed him that from now on he would live in the duchy as an honored guest. The hero thanked him. An honored guest is greeted here with respect, like a sage or a famous warrior. The Duke emphasized that for safety, one must act openly. If everything is transparent, the Marquis Varhola's family is unlikely to dare to do anything. The Duke noticed that this matter had its nuances. He said he would accept the hero as an honored guest if he agreed to one condition, to promise that Ron would be able to live peacefully and freely. The Duke asked him to find those responsible for the attempt on Marie. It became his personal mission. After all, as an honored guest, he could move freely and investigate everything independently. When the conversation ended, Rond walked down the corridor, quietly grumbling that speaking is easy, but doing is harder. Meanwhile, the servants secretly whispered about the unusual guest. After all, the Duke had never invited anyone before. The main character dreamed of going to bed quickly, but suddenly a reproachful voice sounded from behind. "Don't be lazy." The hero promised Mari that he would become stronger and always protect her. Mari smiled in response, and jokingly said that she was looking forward to it. The heroes arrived at the new location, and were amazed by what they saw. No wonder the villa of the Dukes of the Estesia family looked so luxurious. Mary finally suggested starting their magical training, explaining that there is a nice spot behind the estate for practice and invited everyone to go there together. When they came to this place, they noticed it was perfect for magical training. No one around, so no one would spy, and they could practice peacefully. The girl asked with interest if he could show her his magical abilities, and the boy gladly agreed. He stretched out his hand forward, summoning deadly poison. He gathered all his magical power and formed a bright glowing sphere in the air. Suddenly a huge black sphere appeared before him. He summoned a magical poisonous dragon that could explode and directed it straight at the tree. From the powerful strike the tree split and with a loud crack fell to the ground. The girl noticed that this power was incredible. It is not just a strong magical attack. If it hits the target, it also removes all poison around. Indeed, extremely dangerous magic. Using such in the estate is definitely not advisable. She carefully touched the slime with a stick and noticed how the poisonous substance began to corrode objects. She thought that if this had happened in their house, the floor would have collapsed long ago. The hero replied that he would try to change the composition of the poison. The girl nodded in agreement and allowed the hero to do whatever he wished without setting any limits. Then he immediately created a new sphere, which was completely different from the previous one. He concentrated on everything that was happening around. The girl recalled how she first met him and then decided to become stronger in order to be able to protect him. From these thoughts, she quietly smiled. He turned to her and asked what had happened. The girl was confused and only now realized that he had already cast 10 spells, but the magic still worked. He calmly noted that he could continue doing so. He explained that creating strong poisons requires spending a lot of energy, and currently he uses only light poisons. This interested her, and she asked what exactly he called weak poisons. Mari explained that usually 10 fireballs are enough for them, and they do not spend more. Their strength runs out quickly on such things. But the boy calmly assured her that he has a huge reserve of magical energy. Recalling magical powers, Ron mentally returned to childhood. He saw how his brother Felix trained diligently and always received approval from everyone. At that time, he really wanted to have the same talent as his brother. Myra asked what would happen if the strongest poison was used. The boy said he had not tried it yet, so he could not answer. He asked if he would be allowed to try it himself. The girl gave him permission, so the boy began to cast spells. Focused, he realized that he had become a completely different person than he once was. Now he possesses the strongest poison, the magic of the poisonous dragon. He used the magic of dragon poison and uttered the spell Purple Dragon. At the young man's command, the dragon-shaped spell surged forward and rushed straight at the enemy. Black fog spread further and further, covering vast expanses and gradually penetrating the forest. The boy and the girl froze in place, stunned by what they saw. He turned to her and confidently promised that he would do everything to remain invincible. In response, she smiled warmly and admitted that she felt invulnerable beside him. The boy headed deeper into the forest, wishing to feel the effect of the poisonous magic even more strongly. He asked the girl for permission to go further alone, and she warned him. The farther from the villa, the more dangers there are, monsters might appear, so he must be careful. He remembered how Mari said she could defeat anyone, but now everything turned out to be much more complicated. The poison of the violet dragons was available only to the elite. The hero could not even imagine how much it might cost, but he was sure the sum was enormous. He realized if so much money was paid for a hired killer, the enemy was truly dangerous. And if suddenly the servants of the Edwarl family found him, and he had to face the brother and sister in battle, he wouldn't even have time to use a powerful spell like Poison of the Purple Dragon. The hero understood that he needed to learn more about his magical abilities and learn to use them confidently. He needed practice. Suddenly, 3 goblins appeared before him. They looked energetic, and their health was at the highest level. The hero instantly fired a poisonous bullet with weak poison directly at the enemy, hitting the target precisely, and focused on watching his reaction. After a successful strike on all 3 enemies, he immediately surveyed the situation. Health decreased by 9 units, and the body was engulfed by poison. Just before the main hero, a dead goblin suddenly fell. The hero immediately understood everything. The poison slowly drains strength, taking about 1 life point every second, and if nothing is done, it leads to death. But the hero barely had time to recover when another goblin rushed at him from the side. The hero used another trick. He shot the enemy with a bullet containing weak poison. As soon as the projectile hit the target, the hero noticed that the opponent's health decreased, but the poison did not take effect. The hero hit the goblin again and realized that the poisonous bullet causes damage upon impact, and the poisoning effect is an additional bonus that does not always occur, but only occasionally. Choosing another goblin as the next target, the hero decided to try a new poison on him, paralyzing. He threw a bullet with this potion at the monster. The poison worked immediately. The goblin's health level dropped by half, and he stood still, completely paralyzed. The hero thought that this probably also happened by accident. Then he created a bullet again in his palm. The hero placed his palm on the monster's head and released deadly poison into it. The goblin instantly died. The hero pondered. He began to understand how to poison an opponent in different ways. There are two methods, either from a distance or by contact. The hero noticed that the shooter can hit enemies from a distance, causing them physical damage. However, his poison acts unpredictably, sometimes instantly, and sometimes its effect is delayed. But if you get too close and get this poison on yourself, the consequences will be guaranteed, but much more dangerous. The hero stopped abruptly when he heard Madame Marie's piercing scream. At the same time, knights of the county were desperately fighting bandits in a nearby clearing. Several mercenaries in black easily dealt with the soldiers. One of the men rushed to Marie, and she stood motionless, only watching everything with wide-open eyes, unable to move even a bit. The girl suddenly remembered how the doppelganger almost killed her and screamed in fear. The hero suddenly appeared nearby and unleashed dragon poison magic. From his mouth burst an explosion in the form of a smoky black dragon's head, which hovered very close in front of the bandit. A huge maw grabs the mercenary's body and quickly takes him far away. The hero runs out to Mari, calls her by name, while the bodies of the bandits, trapped in the dragon's jaws, rise higher and higher into the sky. The hero confidently declared that he would protect her, and the girl watched with admiration as the enemies screamed in panic from fear. The dragons swiftly flew down and landed heavily on the ground, raising a loud rumble around them. 3 attackers died instantly during the collision. Their bodies lay on the ground, mangled from the strong impact. The girl was trembling with excitement, and the boy gently placed his hand on her shoulder, trying to calm her. He knelt on one knee beside her, softly promising that everything would be fine, and vowed to protect her under any circumstances. She dialed his number. The feeling was as if he had become her savior again, and now she felt she owed him a debt she would hardly be able to repay. Next to him, she felt calm and safe. She sincerely thanked Rondi. A little later, when he was already at the Duke's estate, the man heard that the attackers were named Dansuer and Tensor. He immediately guessed that they were probably the Connie brothers. The hero asked if their name was known in certain circles. The man smiled and confirmed, yes, the name is well known, especially among hired killers. He said that these people are very cruel. They would easily raise a hand even against a baby, move so quietly that they are almost invisible. If it weren't for Ron's help, everything could have ended tragically. The man was glad when he realized they had been saved, but he noted, if someone managed to hire exactly these 3, then the circle of suspects has noticeably narrowed. The hero replied that he was glad to help. The Duke said he owed him again for the help. Even if Ron would no longer be an honored guest and would leave, the Duke would still repay him. He promised to give such an amount of money that would be enough for Ron for several years. The hero asked if he understood everything correctly, and the man nodded, assuring him not to worry. The Duke's spies did not notice anyone pursuing them, and found no traces that the Edvar house was investigating or searching for anything. He said that in the Marquis's estate, everyone sincerely believed the hero died from poisoning, and if everything is kept secret, no one would even think to doubt it. The hero was glad that the past was behind him, and for the first time in a long time he felt true freedom. However, the hero was uneasy. What would happen to Marie if he left the Duke's house right now? The Duke immediately reassured him and said that Ron could stay. In fact, he himself wanted to suggest this at least for Marie's sake. The hero agreed and said he would not leave until all difficulties were behind, because he wanted to protect Madame Marie. The Duke was very pleased with this confidence. The Duke said that after the attack by the Connie brothers, they decided to take another guard to better protect Marie. The new guard's name is Amanda. She is a true woman knight. From now on, Marie will be guarded by 2. The main hero was genuinely surprised when he learned that the new guard was a female knight. The Duke emphasized that despite being a woman, her skills are truly impressive. She is among the top 3 strongest in the entire knight order. Her character is strict, but with the hero she will definitely be able to find common ground and work well together. After a few moments, the hero opened his eyes in surprise. He managed to jump back before the blow, and at that very second the ground beneath him began to crack. From the unexpected strong blow, the hero staggered, lost his balance, and fell to the side. The girl standing over him mockingly said, "Is that all? Just empty words." She asked if he really thought he could protect his lady like that. At night, Amanda Magnaria shouted to Ja that if he really wants to save Marie, he must kill her. The hero wiped his face, not believing he had really done such a thing. he had almost taken the life of one of the key figures of the Duke's night guard, the very one who once gave him shelter. The Duke often said that working alongside such people is true happiness. At that moment, the girl gave her name and announced that from now on, by the Duke's order, she would become Madame Marie's personal guard. Amanda asked if his name was really Ron, not Borkad. The hero assured her it was true, and then Anne said that the Duke entrusted them both to protect Madame Marie together, and she was glad to meet him. The girl recalled that during the Connie brothers' attack on Madame Marie at the villa, he was not there and asked why that happened. The boy explained that they went to the villa specifically for training in sorcery. He wanted to test a new spell, so he went to a district inhabited by monsters. Amanda noticed that, it seemed, for Rhonda, practicing magic was more important than Lady Marie's safety, but Rhonda disagreed and assured that this was not the case at all. He just did not want to take Lady Marie in a wheelchair to a place where danger might await them, because that would be wrong. The girl shouted, reminding that she was attacked at that very moment, and reproached the hero for not foreseeing the threat. The hero admitted his recklessness, but noted that at that time he was only an honorary guest. Amanda did not calm down and exclaimed in response, "What difference does it make that you were just a guest?" She reminded him that he promised to protect Marie, and at that very moment, the hero remembered that this was indeed true. The knight explained that true protection means being ready to sacrifice one's own life, and asked Fronda if she had such courage within herself. The hero was silent, and then she asked if he understood that the greatest threat during a mission is a partner without determination. That is why she wanted to check if he could become a true protector for the lady, as well as learn about his abilities and strength of character. The girl took a fighting stance and used magic. She surprised everyone when she raised a powerful burst of fire into the air. The hero could not believe that she was also capable of sorcery. At that moment, it became clear to him. If suddenly these spells were directed at him, trouble would be unavoidable. One of the projectiles exploded very close, and the blast waved through the hero forward. The girl watched carefully as a smoke screen still swirled in the air after the explosion. She said that this place was intended for the Night Order's training, so the hero should not hold himself back. Suddenly, bright light broke through the fog. From the thick smoke, a bullet suddenly flew out, filled with dangerous poison, straight at the girl, but she quickly managed to cast a protective spell on her staff. She struck the sphere hard with her rod, and it shattered into pieces. The hero watched in shock as his magic disappeared. The girl ran up to him and anxiously asked what had happened. She fell to the ground and immediately asked what was going on here. But suddenly she froze. Something unusual caught her attention from the side. Seeing the hero, she hurried to hide him and said that he was still very weak, so he just flew away. She exclaimed that this was not enough, outraged by his unyielding persistence. Then suddenly something sharply hit her body. She dropped to her knees and in despair asked what he had done. The boy said that he had injected poison directly into her body when he touched her hand just before the strike. Ron calmly said that there was deadly poison in her body now, and she would die in 50 seconds. The girl finally understood what poisonous magic meant. The hero assured her that this knowledge would be enough. Now he could neutralize the poison. However, the girl did not even think to ask the enemy for mercy, and confidently said that such poison was just a trifle for her. She showed a stone lying in her palm and squeezed it tightly. At that moment, the stone flashed with bright light. Ron immediately realized that it was a magical healing stone, an extremely valuable item that he had never seen with his own eyes before. Meanwhile, the girl had already stood up. The hero felt his strength return, and the poison completely disappeared from his body. He was surprised because the magical stone not only removed the bad effects, it restored his energy. This made the hero wonder how much such a valuable thing could cost. Meanwhile, Amanda, without hesitation, said it was time to move on. The hero gets up, but suddenly a question comes from the side. Someone asks what they are doing here. Both stop and look around at the one who spoke. It was Lady Myra. Ron was surprised to see that she had already gotten up. The girl quickly assured everyone that her legs were fine now, but that was not the most important thing at the moment. She loudly exclaimed, asking how it happened that her guards had argued among themselves. Amanda replied that it was not a real quarrel, but just a way to check how confident Ron was in himself. Meanwhile, Myra advised them to shake hands and forget the misunderstanding. They met each other's gaze, looking seriously into one another. Showing no feelings, both firmly shook hands. The girl praised them for their courage and suggested living together. She eagerly awaited their response. Both quickly agreed. After that, the girl informed them that her father wished to speak with them. She shared that the Duke seems to have already found out who organized the assassination attempt on her. At the Duke's estate, one of the men reported that they had managed to find out who organized the assassination attempt on Marie. Amanda inquired whether it really happened and who dared to attack her lady. The man replied that the name of the attacker himself is still unknown, but the main instigator has already been found. The Duke recalled the name of Marquis Greenwich and expressed hope that it was not him behind all this. Amanda could not understand why Marquis Greenwich would act this way. Ron explained that the Marquis was essentially attacking someone from the ducal family, which was very risky. Such a reckless action could jeopardize the integrity of the entire kingdom. The man paused for a brief moment, then said that now he too might be facing serious danger. However, he does not consider himself that important. If something bad happens, the Duke asks to protect Maria above all. Mar asked her father not to say such things. The hero asked in surprise what had happened, and the Duke explained. In Yugdia there is currently a serious struggle between influential political factions. In short, he and Greenwich cannot agree on the ways to a common political goal. The hero asked the man why he was so convinced that the Greenwich house was to blame for everything. The man replied, they learned about it from reports of spies who are among their people. The man showed his weapon and said that the knife used in the first attack on Mari looks completely different. Such knives are neither made nor sold in Astasia. They can only be found in black markets in certain areas of the Greenwich Marquisate. Mari finally realized everything. Jero assured her, no matter what happens, he will always be by her side and protect Lady Mari. Amanda confidently said that without courage this task cannot be overcome, and assured everyone that she was ready to take responsibility for everything. She would do everything to protect Mrs. Marie even if she had to give her own life for it. Her words caused anxiety in everyone, and they exchanged worried glances. The Duke addressed them with trust. He asked to organize a festive evening together to celebrate Marie's recovery, which was scheduled for the next week. He announced that he expected a large number of guests. It was an important celebration, and he did not want anything to spoil it. However, everyone had to remain attentive and ready for any surprises. The day of the party arrived. The hero was walking slowly through the city streets, thinking about what gift would be the best. He recalled how Amanda reproached him because it was a festive day in honor of the lady's recovery, and he had not taken care of a gift. He explained that he had to stay by Marie and protect her, so he had no time to go out into the city and buy something. Amanda joyfully showed her gift and said that she had taken care of everything in advance. The hero was sincerely surprised at how she managed it. The knight noted that it was not proper to make excuses with work and forget about the celebration, because in Astasia everyone was obliged to prepare a gift, as every lady awaited it with excitement. The hero realized that there was no point in arguing further and agreed. Amanda sighed and assured that one guard would be enough at the party. Meanwhile, it was better for the hero to look for another task. The hero was walking slowly through the city and thought that saying something to someone was an easy matter, but what could he really offer? Moreover, the hat he borrowed from Landy constantly irritated him. The hero hoped to hide his face, but instead the hat made his strange appearance stand out even more and drew attention to his old-fashioned clothes. The hero realized that he had no chance to surpass the nobles either in wealth or beauty. Therefore, he needed to find another way to cope with this situation. A little aside, the hero noticed a merchant who was enticing people to try their luck by selling magical stones for just 1 silver coin. Interested, the hero silently began to observe, listening to the conversations around. A stranger asked the seller if among these stones there was a poisoned dragon stone. The hero was surprised by such an unusual question. The merchant just shrugged and said that if lucky, maybe, one of the stones would turn out to be a poisoned dragon stone. He explained that they were not recognized for 2 reasons. Either no one had seen them, or they did not have enough magic to fully manifest their capabilities. The merchant guessed that very complex magic might be hidden in this item, which modern methods could not detect. And if he chose another path, he could obtain S-level magic. Such power was possessed only by great wizards, and then the poisonous dragon would cease to be just a legend. The hero pondered about magical stones and asked the old man if he had ever seen someone find a truly lucky stone. The man explained that a merchant who talks about his clients quickly loses everything and ends up with nothing, so he could not say anything. Then the stranger replied that it was like a lottery in which it is impossible to win. Ron invited them to come closer so they could examine all the stones and choose the one they liked. The boy thought that he was unlikely to surprise others with a gift that was expensive or had a special appearance, so he decided to rely on luck. He asked the seller to show the stones from the farthest box. He rummaged through the box when suddenly a pleasant warmth wrapped around his back. Perhaps it was a sign that this was the very item to choose in his hand. He took the black stone and told the merchant that he wanted to buy it. The seller replied that it cost 1 silver coin. The stranger asked the hero why he took this unremarkable stone, since there were much more beautiful ones nearby. The hero explained that this stone, though unattractive, was hidden in the very corner. Perhaps this chest exists precisely for such forgotten things. The hero felt that he looked lonely and unnecessary and noticed something in common with himself in this. He apologized, saying he had to hurry back, and said goodbye. The stranger admired this darkness because for him it was incredibly beautiful and mysterious. Later, in a narrow alley, the stranger stood with the stone in his hand and tried to convince the owner that he meant no harm and was not to blame for what happened. Sitting on the man, he suddenly realized that he belonged to those people who lose their mind when they see true beauty. Late in the evening, Mirror sincerely thanked everyone who came that day to celebrate her recovery. Many guests gathered in the house. Yoru secretly hoped that everything would go smoothly, but she could not help thinking that among the guests there might be someone connected to the family of Ed Warhol. He was sure that he did the right thing by choosing the role of a servant to secretly protect Marie. Watching the guests present her with gifts, he felt how hard it always was for a servant to be near his mistress. It was good that Amanda was nearby. She was the one who suggested taking all the gifts away from Marie. A woman approached Mari and asked how she was feeling. It turned out to be her aunt. The hero immediately realized that the girl had already recovered, which made him very happy. Mari smiled so sincerely and warmly that the boy could not take his eyes off her. He flinched sharply, remembering that he had to work so as not to arouse anyone's suspicion. Suddenly, a stranger appeared before him. The boy stopped and apologized, but in response received only rude words. The young man asked if the hero was really watching Mari. The hero tried to deny it, but the young man interrupted him, angrily noting that the boy from the common folk almost ran into him and even dared to fall in love with Mari. For that, in his opinion, he deserves 1,000 deaths. At the same time, he noted that tonight was a festive night, and due to the good mood after the wine, he did not plan to do anything, so the hero should thank him for that. The hero politely thanked him, although he still did not understand who this person before him was. The young aristocrat noticed that he had already traveled a long way and did not want to ruin everything with hasty decisions, for then all his efforts would be in vain. He approached the group where Mari was and greeted them, noting that he hadn't seen her for a long time. The girl replied, admitting that she had called him, and addressed him by name, Randy. Time passed and the hall gradually emptied. The hero noted to himself that everything went quietly and without any surprises. He noticed that a girl was standing nearby. She was unharmed, so the boy felt relieved. He went out onto the balcony, approached her, and asked if she was okay. She calmed everyone down by saying that she was fine, and also suggested that Ron was probably already tired of taking care of her and helping with everything all the time. She said that thanks to him and Amanda, she was able to get to this interesting party, and sincerely thanked him. After that, she asked if the hero remembered Ron Randy, who was also at the celebration. The hero replied that he remembered this person and asked if they were well acquainted with that lady. The girl shared that he was once her fiancé, but recently they have grown very distant from each other. Now, it seems, her future husband will be someone else. The hero himself did not understand why he felt lighter at heart when he learned that his fiancée could be another person, since for aristocrats marriage is not about freedom of choice at all. The hero recalled Randy's behavior and felt anger because he himself was Miss Marie's fiancé. He felt sorry for Marie because it was clear she did not want to communicate with Randy. He thought that if Mari had to marry a stranger she did not love, it would be better to become her husband himself. He sharply recoiled and shook his head in denial, not understanding why he even thought about such a thing. After all, if he still dared, Ducastasia would simply wipe him off the face of the earth. He needed to change the subject of the conversation as soon as possible. After a minute of silence, the hero finally spoke, saying that tonight the moon looks especially beautiful. The girl awkwardly threw him a word and he looked at her with surprise, and she, lost in thought, looked at this night and the bright moon. And so they stood silently together, looking at the sky. There was something old-fashioned but sincere in this silence, like an unspeakable confession. She gladly gave a 5. She considered herself very clever, but she was curious about what Rhonda thought of her. So she started a conversation about the fiancé and in response heard exactly what she wanted. Silence fell. The hero wondered if he had said something unnecessary. Remembering the gift, he handed it to Mari and said it was in honor of her recovery. The girl looked at the magical stone in surprise, and the boy explained that he thought she would definitely like such a gift. He said he had to go because work awaited ahead. There was still cleaning to do. The girl called out a thank you to him, sincerely thanking him for everything. She confessed that she was extremely happy and promised to always take care of him. Several days passed. The Duke said the matter was almost finished. The hero dared to inquire again. The musicians said they gathered all the pieces and maps to trap Marquis Greenwich. Now they only have to make the decisive move. If he tells them about it, the enemy will understand that they have fallen into a trap and will most likely start acting more aggressively and recklessly. The dukes explained their true goal. Instead of killing Marie, they planned to kidnap her. It turns out that if they force the girl to marry someone from the Greenwich family, they will have hope of returning to their past life. He shared that initially the Greenwich and Astasia families planned to arrange an engagement between their children. However, due to political disputes, the agreement was never signed. But it seems the Greenwich family has not yet given up on the idea of marrying Marie. The main character could not understand this. If the Greenwich family so desperately wanted to become relatives with Astasia, then why did they try to kill her? The Duke himself does not fully understand what is happening and did not intend to arrange any political marriages. However, one thing is clear: the Greenwich family decided to save Marie by kidnapping her. It is the Duke who will inform them who will become her future fiancé. The Duke solemnly announced that Randy von Greenwich will become the heir of Marquis Greenwich. The hero was shocked and could not believe what he had just heard. Finally, the hero realized the truth. This disgusting man is the heir of the Greenwich family and the fiancé of Lady Marie. Now it was clear why Lona spoke in such riddles back then. Due to the long-standing feud between the Astasia and Greenwich families, this is easy to believe. But if you recall how Randy behaved at the party, it is clear that he still dreams of winning Myra's heart. The Duke warned that at this time there is a great threat of kidnapping, and after the recent failed assassination attempt, the possibility of an attack only increases. Therefore, he emphasized that everyone must be extremely vigilant for at least the next month. The main character understood the importance of these words and promised to do everything in his power to protect Marie. Some time passed and they heard that the one who stood before the girls had now appeared in a different form. They became curious about what had happened to him, so they decided to ask. He explained that he now works as a butler, and from this moment on will act according to the rules established for this role. Amanda asked what this meant, and then he explained. This way she could calmly perform her role as her guardian, and he would stay close to the lady as a butler and help if needed. Amanda quickly responded by asking if this meant there was something wrong with her security. The hero explained that if, for example, someone added poison to the food, it would be easier for him to handle it if he was nearby. Marie, who was standing behind, was happy at the thought that Ron would always stay close to her. Marie said she liked this idea, and Amanda immediately supported her. The lady also agreed. Marie noted that a double level of security would help her feel calmer. The next week she was invited to Tesla's residence, so she asked Rhonda to master the rules of behavior of a true butler by that time. However, from what Rhonda said, it was clear it would not be easy. A week passed, Amanda waited by the door, and Marie had already dressed in festive clothes. Ron approached the lady to say that the carriage had already arrived. She smiled and joked that he was already a real butler, and therefore would gladly take him home to Tesla with her. He thanked her and explained that Tesla was her old childhood friend. However, due to the suspicious nature of the invitation itself, he decided to conduct an additional check. He found no connections to the house in Greenwich. So he assured her that she could safely maintain communication with Tesla. Marie said that he could be relied upon, even if he became her bodyguard. In response, he assured that in any situation he would not let anyone near her, so she had nothing to worry about. But Marie noted that the very thought of going for a walk now, when it was so dangerous around, seemed too risky to her. However, he had a different opinion. She explained that she chose this path precisely because of its danger. If she stayed home after the attempted attack, it would disgrace the Duke's family. In such moments, it is important to appear in public and show everyone your strength and resilience. Ron noted that she was indeed strong. With these words, they finally set off on their way. Later in Tesla's house, a young girl looked carefully at Rhonda and asked if he was really the same man everyone was talking about. Marie nodded, confirming this, and her friend called the hero to her. He approached and asked how he could be of help. Then the girl said she had heard that he also protected Lady Marie. The young man nodded and explained that he worked both as a bodyguard and a butler. That was how he earned his living. The girl looked at Marie and addressed Rhonda. She joked, saying whether he was not stupid if he still hadn't understood anything. Then she seriously added that he should take good care of Marie. Over time, the ship's crew began to be accompanied by guards. The hero asked if he really looked that unreliable. Maurice asked if it was Tesla who told him. The boy nodded and explained, if the enemy decides that he is not too serious, maybe they will relax, and that would only work in their favor. The girl doubted and said that Tesla probably meant something else. Ron cheerfully winked and promised that she need not worry, he would protect her well. She looked satisfied but inquired if all this was just his duties as an honored guest. He was silent for a moment before answering. Suddenly their carriage suddenly shook. The girl screamed in fear, but the hero instantly ran to her, trying to calm her and asking her not to leave him alone. At that moment he cautiously wondered if it could be an attack, but there was deep silence around. He thought if it really was an attack, Amanda and the Steel Ones would already be fighting. Carefully peeking out of the carriage, he suddenly froze in place. Amanda was lying on the ground, and he stood nearby, calling her in confusion, still unable to understand what was happening. On the roof of the carriage stood a person who was casting a magical spell. The hero stopped, suddenly feeling something strange and incomprehensible. As soon as the carriage exploded, he immediately grabbed the girl and jumped out with her. They tightly pressed the mirror to themselves and rushed off the cliff, swiftly flying down. The girl called to him, and he loudly replied, "Under no circumstances let go of my hand." Earlier, the poisoned man used a shell so that they could land calmly and safely. The hero tightly hugs Maria and asks tenderly if she is okay. The girl smiles, nods confidently, and jokingly adds that sometimes poisonous magic can come in handy. He explained that he applied a spell capable of making the poison semi-solid for a short time. Such poison forms a strong shell. He invented this trick back when he tried to save a cat falling from a cliff. She explained that this spell can be used as a shield, but its effect lasts only 2-3 seconds. Suddenly, a lightning ball flies toward them. The boy notices this and quickly stops the ball using a spell. This time he uses a magic ball with light poison. The ball dissolves in the air, and from the hill comes a voice warning the hero not to overdo it and reminding him the girl must be captured alive. A stranger approaches Rhonda and greets her, adding that a lot of time has passed since their last meeting. The hero suddenly remembers that he had met this stranger before. Surprised, he asks how he knows his name. The man said he had learned a lot of new things and called Rhonda a sorceress who possesses poison magic. He says that for almost 1,000 years among people who do not practice magical arts, there has been no master who possesses poisonous magic. Moreover, it turned out that gloomy and always dissatisfied Rhonda has abilities in poisonous magic. The man smiles and says he cannot help but rejoice, since poisonous magic arose from his pain when the hero's father tried to kill him with his own hands. He lunges at Rhonda with a scream, demanding that he finally demonstrate his true power. Ron believes that the enemies want to capture Marie alive, but he understands that this man is somehow interested in him. The hero decides to lead the opponent away from Marie. He creates a protective barrier of poisonous magic around her. Lingering briefly, the hero begins to retreat, deliberately drawing the enemy's attention to himself. The man instantly runs up to Rhonda, his body wrapped in flashes of lightning. The hero rushes forward with incredible speed and almost strikes the opponent, but the latter manages to dodge and avoid the blow at the last moment. He is almost ready to use poisonous magic and looks at the man in a way that sends chills down the spine. The stranger steps back from the boy in fear, but does not hold back laughter and looks at him with surprise. He throws a knife at Rhonda, but Rhonda quickly dodges. The blade sticks with a dull click into a tree behind. The man says that poisonous magic is so strong it can kill with just one touch. Therefore, he does not want to take risks and will keep away from close combat. Looking at the knife, the heroine recalls that it was with such a weapon that the maid intended to attack Marie. But later, during the investigation, it became known the maid acted not of her own will, but was following someone's orders. He realizes that an ordinary mortal can only dream of obtaining a knife covered with the poison of a purple dragon. Ron insists that it was his enemy who planted the knife with the maid and planned the attack on the mistress, but suddenly at that moment, the hero is struck by lightning. The hero is seriously wounded and falls to the ground. Maria is shocked by what happened, while the man rejoices because he managed to hit the boy. The stranger noticed that Ron is still breathing and remarked with surprise at his strength. Not everyone would survive such a blow. The man says that he always makes his victims remember his name well before dealing with them, and orders to listen carefully. He leans toward Rhonda and quietly says his name, Albrecht. The man raises the knife to the hero's face and demands in a cold voice, "Remember my name. Let everyone on the other side of life know who destroyed you." Maria, around whom the protection disappeared, called the hero's name and reached out her hand to him. But all of Brett's warriors immediately turned to her. Brett himself declared that he received orders to take her alive. Turning to her, he says that for him the main thing is that she is alive, and the rest does not matter. Having said this, he goes to Maria. But suddenly behind the man appears a large ball of magical energy. The ball flies straight at Ulbricht, but he manages to dodge at the last moment. the explosion happens very close and only slightly touches him. At that moment, 4 magical balls simultaneously rush toward him and surround him from all sides. All the balls explode simultaneously, and suddenly a girl with a pistol appears above them all. She is the one who created these dangerous spheres. She utters a spell, and bright flames flare around her weapon. She exactly hits the spot where breakfast had just been, and the ground suddenly sinks beneath that spot. But the man deftly jumped aside, dodging both the explosions and the blow. Amanda Knight approaches Marie to support her and asks if she is okay. The girl assured that she was fine and mentioned Rhonda. At that moment, the knight asked that while she distracts the enemy, Marie could pass something important to the hero. Amanda extends a magical healing stone and explains that thanks to it, she once managed to survive as well. At the same time, the girl emphasizes, this was the last such stone, there are no others left. Marie listens attentively, while Albrecht notes that it would be better for her to just lie still and not move. He says that if Amanda really wants to die so badly, he is ready to help her. At least her name will definitely be remembered in the world of the dead. After these words, he draws his sword. The man states his name and immediately attacks the knight, demanding that he remember him and die at the same time. With a powerful strike, their weapons clash with a loud sound. Marie quickly healed Rhonda, and the boy immediately thanked her. But the girl said that it was not her merit, but the result of the magical healing stone given by Amanda. The hero, surprised, sees Amanda suddenly appear nearby and shifts his gaze toward the battlefield. The knight skillfully deflects blows with her shield, but the force of the attack still forces her to retreat backward. Meanwhile, Rhonda calls her, urging her to return. The girl, without hesitation, throws herself at the enemy. In her hands is a weapon still engulfed in flames. The hero recalled their agreement with Amanda. In case a dangerous enemy appeared, she was to become a shield, taking the blow herself, and he was to get Maria to a safe place as quickly as possible and worry only about her protection. He adds that if she really wants to die, then it is her choice and he will not interfere. But Ron says he cannot just watch her die and leave her to fate. Amanda sternly warned him, even if he does not doubt her determination, no feelings will make her change her decision. She reminded the hero that the most important thing is to protect Mari. If the situation becomes dangerous, he will have to leave her and go. Ron looks around and sees that the path to the east is blocked by a large rock. To the west stretches a river, and beyond it, a high cliff they will not be able to overcome. From the south come the sounds of battle. The only chance to survive is to head north. Beyond the bridge lies a forest. If they and Mari reach there, they can hide and escape. However, the bridge is at a considerable distance, and if they are seen, the pursuers will easily catch the fugitives due to their incredible speed. But there is no other option, so Ron turns to Mari and asks if she can run. The girl confidently nods and says she is ready. He said that when he gives the signal, she must run to the bridge with all her might. He tells her that he will always be nearby, wherever she goes, and asks her not to look back but just run forward. Mario trusts him and does exactly that. Amanda fights and shouts loudly to Rhonda, "What are you doing? Run away from here faster." She creates a fireball and throws it directly at the enemy, but he manages to skillfully dodge. The man asks if she has run out of ideas, because he has seen this trick before. Ron and Marie rushed after the bridge, and the destructive wave was almost reaching them. The man swung his sword, Marie. The man notices this and calls the girl. Suddenly, behind Albrecht, Ron appears and confidently says that even if that stranger is very fast, he will still manage to stop him as soon as he tries to get closer. The hero uses deadly poison to get rid of his enemy. The opponent falls to the ground, and Ron happily realizes that he managed to hit him. But suddenly, when Marie was already near the bridge, lightning struck him. The bridge collapsed right before her eyes, and the girl saw this terrible scene with fear. Unexpectedly, Ron sees Albrecht standing right on the bridge beam. The hero asks in surprise why this man can still move, since he definitely injected him with poison. The enemy explains, if you ever find yourself in a fight with a mage who possesses poison, be sure to have a magic stone with you before the battle that protects against poison. Ron remembered how one man repeatedly insisted that he avoid close combat. Albrecht replied that this was another feature of this technology, and at that moment, lightning struck the rock. Suddenly, a huge stone falls with a crash between Amanda and the heroes. The man tells Marie and Rhonda that they will no longer be able to escape, not even the knight can save them. He smiles slyly and says that the time has come to finish everything. Albrecht says that he always completes his work in just 5 minutes, because spending more time on it seems inappropriate to him. He reminded that only 30 seconds remain ahead, and praised Rhonda for making him value every second thanks to her. The man announces that the hero's adventures end here and calls upon lightning and a powerful sound wave. However, Ron manages to stop the attack using the poisonous magic of the purple dragon. Bricht watches with admiration as the dragon's poison absorbs the lightning. The spectacle fills him with delight. Now Rhonda fully controls the dragon. The poisonous dragon, absorbing all the lightning, calmly approaches the enemy. But instead of fear, admiration is seen in his eyes, for now he sees with his own eyes the ancient magic that disappeared 1,000 years ago. The dragon grabs Albrecht, and they both fall into the abyss. Ray and the exhausted Rond sincerely rejoice at this event. The hero declares that he will check everything himself and asks the girl not to come closer because it is dangerous. After the collapse, staying here is risky. The girl agrees and reminds him once again to be careful. The boy lowered his gaze and thought, even if that man survives, he will not be able to get out of that trap. He says that Brecht is actually a very dangerous mercenary. If the Grivnishi are to blame for everything, then Marie is in even greater danger. But suddenly Brecht jumps onto a large stone and loudly says that endlessly worrying about his role and trying to distract the dragon at the last moment is complete nonsense. Rond looks at his opponent in surprise, but still mocks him and says that the hero makes no impression on him. All breakfasts were affected by the magic of the island of lightning. The hero realizes that he has used too much magical power, and now the enemy has a chance to strike back. Marie decisively jumps forward and stands in front of Ron to protect him from the attack. But at that very moment, when the lightning is almost reaching them, the small purse on the girl's neck suddenly begins to glow brightly. The hero opens his eyes and suddenly notices that he is in an unfamiliar place. He does not understand at all where he has ended up and what is happening around him. In front of him stretched a forest in which huge mushrooms grew. Ron turns back and calls Marie, but suddenly sees her on the ground. Her clothes are torn and her eyes are closed. He calls her, the girl wakes up and happily says that she is glad to see him whole and unharmed. But the hero blushes awkwardly and gestures at her clothes. A branch suddenly caught her skirt and tore a piece from it. The girl looked around confusedly, not understanding how it happened. Embarrassed, she hurried to cover her legs. Ran wondered what exactly made them end up in this strange and mysterious place. He remembered how at the moment when Albrecht almost hit him, he imagined that Marie's wallet was glowing. The hero asks what was in the wallet. The girl says that inside was a magical stone that Ron gave her, but when she opens the wallet, she is suddenly filled with surprise. She takes a cracked stone out of her pocket. The boy insists that despite the artifact having crumbled, it is definitely the same stone he once gave her. Marie realized that the stone really worked. They suddenly found themselves right in the middle of the forest. She says that her stone is very similar to a magical teleportation stone. Her father also tried to collect such stones, but he failed because they are very rare. For Ron, this was a surprise, as this artifact turned out to be a true rarity and has great value. He could not understand how this strange stone ended up in that suspicious shop at all. Mari, with a smile, notes that Ron has come to her aid again. The hero, slightly blushing, admits that this time it was she who came to his aid. Then with a smile he adds that when they return home, Amanda will probably torment him. He suggests that Mari return, but the girl warns him. A tree is already flying at him from behind. Ron acts quickly. He injects poison into the tree, and it immediately withers. The girl did not lose composure in the face of the sudden attack, and the hero thought that if the opponent does not heal his wounds using magic, then he can defeat him himself. Mari explains that this evil tree is actually a treant, the infamous killer of the forest. The boy wonders where she got so much knowledge about such monsters. The girl notes that trends change depending on the place where people live, and emphasizes that understanding this can be difficult. She adds that a similar situation is observed throughout the country. Ron responds that it is time to move forward. The hero decided to act first. He said he would deal with all the monsters on the way himself. He asked Mari to stay behind and not take unnecessary risks, and the girl agreed and promised to obey him. As they walked side by side, the boy asked the girl if she felt well. She smiled and said she was fine, but the main hero still noticed something strange in her behavior. He notes that it is good to be in this very forest, since monsters that attack in groups are almost never encountered here. I will add that poisonous magic has one weakness. It is difficult for it to cope in battles where there are many opponents. It is not very strong against mass attacks, but even if such an enemy appears, there are many places in the forest to hide. Ron together with Mari come across an unfamiliar bright fruit. The boy looks at it with curiosity and asks if he can try it. Mari notices the unusual color and becomes cautious. She thinks that something so bright might be poisonous. The hero bites off a piece of the fruit and immediately feels a slight sourness, but he likes its juiciness. He offers the fruit to the girl, but she loudly refuses. But Ron insists, in the forest one must monitor the water balance. The girl still hesitates a little, although she hears his words. The boy tries to calm the girl, telling her that if there really is poison there, he will instantly neutralize it. In his thoughts, he recalls how she swallowed saliva hastily several times and sees that she is troubled by intense thirst. Mari agrees and takes a small piece of fruit to her mouth. At that moment, the hero immediately uses antidote magic to weaken the effect of the poison. The girl felt how juicy and tasty the fruit was, and it pleased her very much. The magical light of the antidote flashed again at the moment she was chewing something. He says that even if the poison is neutralized immediately, strong pain is still felt during every meal. Hearing this, Mari boldly says she can endure it all, but then the main character suggests another method that might help. The girl notices with surprise that now she can eat without feeling any pain. She is interested in what Ron did, and he explains that he used magic called microvenom. He explains that microtoxin dilutes poison and turns it into healing medicine, so it can be called a special magic that cures poisoning. When Marie found out that the fruit could now be eaten safely, she asked to be given another one. Later they move through thick tall grass, where almost nothing is visible, and suddenly a large wasp swiftly flies out from under the blades of grass. Rome instantly raises a poisonous wall right in front of the girl and warns Mari, this soldier is Class B, and if she bites, her poison will paralyze a person for several hours. He notes that he is well versed in poisons, but the girl only smiles in response and assures, bee warriors are not afraid of poison magic. She warns that this monster always attacks together with its own, and at that very moment, a swarm of bees rapidly approaches them. Rona suddenly feels fear when a whole pack of monsters appears before him. The hero uses poison bullet magic, filling the enemies with deadly poison. Mari sees that a fight has started behind the wall and warns Rhonda where the monsters might appear from. The hero desperately tries to fend off the bees, but suddenly an even larger swarm appears around, instantly filling all the space. He sees one of the monsters aiming and flying in Mari's direction. The young man instantly destroys the bee, but immediately notices there are still many enemies around and almost no time left. He realizes that to use deadly poison, he also needs to prepare magic, and right now there simply aren't seconds for that. The hero continues to use poison that exhausts the enemy. In his opinion, this magic is not very strong, but it can be used many times in a row. In battle, this makes it very useful. He firmly decided to protect Mari from the monsters, but even his most powerful magic could not cope with all of them at once. Ron tries to scare the bees, but they do not stop and fly even closer to him. But the hero suddenly uses magic, pushing the monsters away from himself, and they immediately die. He uses his poison again to weaken the enemy, and suddenly sees that a few bees still managed to get to the other side. The enemies approach Mari, and she decides not to retreat, but to bravely face them. She strengthens the wind magic, creating a strong explosion. The monsters scatter into pieces, and Rhonda enthusiastically praises the girl. Suddenly one of the bees stings Mari in the hand, and she screams loudly in pain. The hero worries if the poison paralyzes her, the monsters will immediately attack and may kill them. The girl used wind magic and lifted V into the air like a light balloon. Ron runs up to the woman and says he will now remove the effect of the poison. However, she suddenly notices that something is wrong with his face and looks at him in surprise. The boy's face is severely swollen, but Mari notices that the monster's poison hardly affects him, all thanks to the microdose he received earlier when he tasted that fruit. The girl happily says that now they are not afraid of poisonous monsters, but Ron admits that even so, he would not want to meet the bee warriors again. After that, they stayed in the forest for another 4 days and 1 night, hiding in their shelter. The hero carefully looked around and asked Mari if she was cold. The girl says that she is fine. Ron thinks that the daytime is still bearable, but at night it really becomes cold. He looked carefully at the lady, asking if life did not seem unusual and new to her. He also recalled that she is the only daughter of the Duke of Astesia, so she probably always grew up under protection and had not yet faced real difficulties. During these 4 days, to at least somewhat quell hunger and thirst, she even ate poisonous berries, endured bee stings, and slept outdoors on the cold ground without any shelter. The hero wonders how the girl managed not to complain even once and remained strong despite everything that happened. He asks her not to hide her grievances or disappointments. There is no one around, so she can safely share with him everything she carries in her heart. but Marie admits that she is actually having a lot of fun. Rhonda asks with surprise how one can remain calm and confident when no one even knows when they will manage to get out of the forest. The girl is shy and dreams of confessing that her cheeks turned red precisely because he is nearby. But she immediately changes her mind, smiles awkwardly, and admits that she has never dealt with anything like this before. For her, it is all unknown and unusual. The hero smiles awkwardly and acknowledges that Marie truly has great strength. He advises her, if something unusual suddenly happens, she should immediately tell him because she must not get nervous. The girl sincerely thanks him for his support and care. Marie is still cold and trembling a little. Rhonda notices this and carefully covers her with his jacket. The girl blushed and thanked him. Inside, she felt as if the hero was sharing his warmth and care with her. Looking around, the boy confidently says that there is not a single monster nearby. Marie gently pulls the boy by the sleeve and addresses him. He turns around in surprise to see what she wants. For a moment, their eyes meet and both freeze. But Ron turns back and says that it's time to go to sleep. He decides to stay outside and stand guard a little longer. The girl, though a little hurt, still listens to him. From the outside, he looks sad and also tries to reassure himself that he did everything right. He raises his head up and sees how the stars in front of him gradually seem to dissolve and disappear from sight. Since Ron and Marie started traveling through the forests, several weeks have passed. Finally, they stop to rest and enjoy some roasted meat. The hero sincerely rejoices, and the girl, smiling, shares her impressions. She had heard that the meat of a deadly bear is very tasty, and now she has confirmed it herself. He thanked the lady from the bottom of his heart for her skillful command of fire magic. The boy is amazed to learn that Marie can use 2 types of magic at once, but Marie explains that her fire magic skills are very simple. She only knows the basics. Ron explained that thanks to this skill, they can now enjoy roasted meat. Continuing through the forest, the hero feels anxiety. Marie is already completely exhausted, and they should find a way out as soon as possible. The boy and the girl suddenly see a huge bear. The beast looks very dangerous and rushes straight towards them. Ron decides to use magic and asks Marie to step a little further away. The boy, who has already tasted bear meat, throws a bullet filled with strong poison at the beast. The fire bear barely stays on its paws, about to fall. At this moment, the hero unexpectedly turns to the girl and asks if, besides the beast's roar, she heard any other voices. They look around cautiously, carefully listening to the slightest sounds around. Marie says she still hears some voices, but cannot understand what they are saying. She suggests to the boy that they need to check the situation, and Ron warns to be vigilant, as it is unknown whether the strangers are friendly. The girl points upward and notes that someone's voices are coming from there. The hero fears that a mercenary, just like Albrecht, might appear before him again. Marie is overwhelmed with happiness because they haven't seen others for a long time, and today, for the first time in several weeks, she has the opportunity to communicate with people. She does not want to lose this chance at all. Ron sees that the girl is very tired. He thinks that maybe it's worth taking a risk and trying to talk to her. He accepts this offer and climbs all the way to the very top. The boy asks Maria to hide and wait a little while he surveys the area and makes sure nothing threatens them around. He sees a giant monster approaching right towards the girl. Ron wondered if he could trust the stranger, then decided to help her and cast a support spell. But he understands well that if he throws the poison bullet from here, the toxic gas might spread and harm the girl. But it is too far to reach directly. The beast is about to grab the girl, and the hero realizes there is no other way to save her. He decides to take the risk and releases the poisonous bullet. Suddenly, Maria appears before them and throws a magical wind bullet at them. Ron looks at her with surprise when suddenly the monster rushes towards them with all its might. The girl tells Ron to continue the path alone. He hurls the poisonous bullet with strong poison directly at the beast. The armored bear has no strength left at all. All his health is depleted. Rhonda and Mari quickly ran up to the girl who was hurt. They asked if she was okay and tried to calm her down, saying there was no reason to worry. The stranger, gripped by fear, tries to understand if everything is really happening, while the heroes notice that she has long pointed ears. It appears before them again and expresses gratitude for the support given. The elf, calling herself Kutunar, Aga, Sazolfin, and Desaria, once again sincerely thanked them for saving her in a difficult moment. Ron cannot pronounce her name correctly, so he suggests calling her simply Cute. Seeing the girl's pointed ears, the hero asks with curiosity if she might be an elf. In response, the girl smiles, nods, and confirms that she really is an elf. Mari sincerely rejoices at the meeting and shares that it is a great honor for her to see an elf right in the forest. Cut is a little embarrassed by such attention and shyly admits that it is unusual for her to hear such words. Then Cut asks if it is true that they consider themselves humans. Ron smiled in response to her words, gave his name, and thought to himself that he still did not understand who she really was. He decided not to reveal yet that he knew her real name, Mari. He is simply introducing everyone to Mari, and she, blushing and embarrassed, tells that she and her friend were traveling together but got trapped and ended up in this forest. The elf asks the girl with surprise why her cheeks suddenly turned red. Meanwhile, Ron worries about Mary and asks if she feels well or if she might have fallen ill. The girl smiles and says she is fine, but inside she is worried. She remembers how unexpectedly the hero addressed her by name, without the usual polite words. Usually he behaves reservedly and politely, but now he spoke so sincerely and closely that it resembles a conversation between lovers, not just acquaintances. Marie pondered about Cuda, although she herself could not explain why she said that. Feeling awkward, she quickly changes the subject and begins to speak interestingly about elven ears. Ron shared that he had heard about elves, but meeting them is very difficult. They are very rare. His companion added that even the highest officials of the kingdom do not know where their settlement is located. Cut explains that her people almost never leave their native elven lands. The boy wonders why this monster chose her as its victim. The elf girl pauses for a moment in thought and asks if she would like to talk about herself. The girl replies that right now the elves are hunting in the village near the World Tree. Mari says that elves are called hunters of the World Tree. Kut agrees and notes, among elves, it is believed that true maturity is reached only when you learn to hunt independently. Kut admits that she has not yet had the chance to hunt a loner, while the younger children have already become world-class hunters. Therefore, the younger ones often mock her, while the adults look sternly and with disapproval. Ron explains that he understands her emotions well, as he himself always felt like an outsider among his own family. At this moment, Maria tries to stop him. The elf gently soothes the girl, telling her that she still dreams of becoming a hunter of the World Tree as soon as possible. She decided not to return to the village until she learned to hunt on her own. But as soon as she stepped over the protective barrier, she was immediately attacked. Now the girl feels like a failure. Mari immediately takes back her words and admits that Kyude's courage really impresses her. The elf girl sincerely thanked the girl and asked if she could somehow repay them for their help. Mari turned to Ron and asked if elves really are the masters of the forest. Ron nodded and said it was true. They turned to Cuddy with a request to teach them how to find the way out of the forest. She says that if that is all they need, she can lead them to the place. Ron confidently says that a walk through the forest with an elf is the most reliable way not to get lost and to reach the goal correctly. Kyude says that the hero can ask about the forest anything that interests him. The boy sincerely thanks her for such an opportunity. He gestured to show which way he wanted to go, but the elf warned him that if they go there is a risk of getting lost in the dense thickets of the forest. Mari notes that they have become much closer than before, and with a slight offense in her voice, says that something is wrong here. Cute easily jumps from one branch to another, confidently holding onto the lianas. Descending straight onto the cap of a huge mushroom, she joyfully calls Rhonda and Mari to follow her. The hero sees that the elf girl is moving too fast and begins to worry whether Mari will get tired. But the woman barely manages to catch her breath, yet still smiles and assures him that she can run at this pace and will not fall behind. After jumping from the mushroom, Cut landed on the ground and suggested resting a little. Tired Rhonda, with anxiety in her heart, wonders how much longer they will have to wander this forest before they finally find the exit. The elf girl replied that if they continued at the same pace as now, they would be able to get out of here in a few days. The boy rejoiced at this news and thanked her for the support. The hero suddenly notices that he is already in the very heart of the dense forest. He hands the fruit to Mari and says that they were very lucky to meet Kyude. The elf asks the girl in surprise if she is tired. She smiles and says that she will rest a little and then feel good again. Ron notices that it is unusual for people to walk through the forest, not like elves. Hearing this, Kyude suggests everyone take a little rest. She stretches her hand forward and calls to the spirits, trying to establish a connection with them. A small seed, resembling a tiny grain, appears on her palm. Mari does not understand which spirits the elf is calling, and at that moment, a seed falls from Kyude's hand to the ground. From the seed grows a small magical creature with wings. It is the spirit of the earth. Rag, Titan, and Cut address it and ask for help. The elf used earth magic to transfer her power to the trees. As a result, the branches began to grow quickly, intertwining with each other, and eventually created a comfortable hammock. Mari and Ron happily watch Cuta's creation and warmly praise her efforts. The boy curiously asks if she used magic for this. The elf girl explains that she simply asked the spirits for help. The hero admits in surprise that he does not see any spirits himself and suggests that only elves are able to notice them. Mari admits with admiration that she has never before encountered true spirit art. The hero asks if other elves are capable of what Cut does. The elf smiled and said that they really can do it, even better than she herself. Ron recalls how everyone around admired Felix and constantly praised him for his talented magical abilities. He asks Cuta if she wishes to enter battle with the forest monsters and achieve victory over them. The elf woman boldly says that she has long dreamed of defeating the armored bear, the very one that even all the villagers cannot overcome. She promises to solemnly bring its head as a trophy. The partners awkwardly exchange glances. Rhonda admits that she spoke sharply yesterday but confesses she sincerely wants to become stronger. The hero announces that from tomorrow they will stop running from monsters and start fighting them. Coot enthusiastically agrees and calls him her teacher, which greatly surprises Mari. She did not expect such a turn of events. Later, Rond addresses the elf woman with a question about what kind of magic she possesses, noticing her hesitation. He adds that the true essence of magic lies not only in power, but in the ability to use it. Mari adds that when you understand your partner's capabilities well, together you can come up with something truly amazing. He ponders, then for the first time shows his move. A piece of earth sharply falls to the ground. But suddenly she lifts it up, and at that moment a huge height appears around. Rond, with surprise, discovered that she has the power to partially control the earth. Then Cute shows his magic. Suddenly a long, sharp stone grows out of the ground, immediately aimed to attack. Mari notes that the elf skillfully controls earth magic, and the hero agrees with her. She remarks that the earth spear really looks interesting, but it appears too slowly, so such attacks are easy to dodge. Cute again impresses everyone with his magic. He throws stone fragments at the earth spear, and it instantly breaks into pieces. Mari says that this earth covered with stones looks very strong. She notices, although such an attack happens quickly, it takes more time to prepare than to create a simple spear. He explains that activating earth magic requires more time. Cute agrees with this. But Ron quickly came up with a solution and noticed that the elf actually has great power. After some time, Cute encountered a bear in armor and immediately challenged it to a duel. However, before he could finish his sentence, the bear roared loudly and began to rapidly grow right before their eyes. He rushes after the girl and she reacts quickly. Using magic, she lifts stone fragments and throws them straight into the bear's face. Cute calls for help from a spirit, and at that moment plants grow from the earth, entangling the animal and piercing its armor. The plants become stronger, and sharp thorns appear on them that wound the bear. But the enemy does not retreat. He pulls plants out of the ground and decisively approaches the elf. Suddenly, Cute sharply takes the ground from under the beast's paws, and it unexpectedly falls into a pit that he just created. As soon as the bear fell to the ground, sharp stone spears suddenly jumped out of the pit and pierced its body through. Cute cheerfully celebrates the victory, and Rond and Mari come out of the bushes, admiringly praising the girl for her skill. The hero says that he saw with his own eyes how she alone dealt with the fierce bear in iron armor. Yads learned that from now on Cudek gained the opportunity to become a hunter of the world tree. The girl smiles at him and laughs quietly. Taking the bear's meat with them, the heroes continued on their way. Ron recalled how Cut told him about the Forest of Illusions. This is what the elves call the forest they are currently in. Mari said that if this is really the Nar Forest, then finding the way out is not difficult at all, and getting lost here is almost impossible. If you make a wrong choice, you can end up in the Marquisate of Edvar. The hero looks at Kutta in surprise and asks if the elves from her village know more about human lands than she does. In response, Kutta explains that she knows only one road to the humans, but among the elves there are those who understand this much better. Rome was well aware that the path Kate mentioned was by no means reliable. Therefore, he decided to learn more from the inhabitants of the elven village. Mari said that their elf was special. She had heard that most elves did not trust humans at all. If someone came close to their village, they might even be driven away or attacked. The boy nodded in response, agreeing with her. But Kate thinks that if only Ron goes, maybe then everything will be fine. While they were walking to the elves, the hero turned to the elf woman and asked if Mary would be okay. Kutarashir notes the fortress, built from earth with the help of spirits, turned out to be surprisingly strong. Ron agrees with him, adding, his friend's magic is perfectly suited for protecting and supporting allies. The elf woman said that learning these skills was a real find for her, and now she sincerely hopes that the villagers will finally accept her. They approach the edge of the hill, and the girl notices villages in the distance, but suddenly she is frightened by what she sees. She looks around and sees that almost nothing remains of the village. Everything has burned down and crumbled into ruins. It swept through the village, and suddenly among the ordinary houses appeared a black house. Ron was impressed by this sight and immediately decided that monsters had attacked the village. Kuk replies that most likely these are the antics of the demon bear, because it was recently seen in the forest. She says that due to the appearance of this demonic bear, the forest bears have become even more aggressive, and even the elves find it difficult to deal with them. But suddenly, a loud scream sounds behind. Someone asks why she stayed there so long. One of the elves said irritably that she had just left the village and was already back not alone, but also with a man at such a difficult time. The elves drive Rondo out of their lands and strictly forbid him from returning. But suddenly Cut stops everyone and explains that the hero saved her life. She shows the head of an armored bear and tells that she obtained this trophy thanks to Ron's advice. The elf woman notices the animal's head and begins accusing another elf woman of deceit. She says that even if she is the elder's daughter, it does not give her the right to bring a stranger into their tribe. The hero could not believe that Kate was the elder's daughter. Suddenly, behind him appeared her father, a huge elf. He addresses Rhonda with a stern question whether he touched his daughter, warning that otherwise he would be in trouble. The boy, frightened by this approach, quickly denies everything. He approaches the elder and confesses that he already has a beloved in his heart. The chief elf gently hugs his daughter, confesses how much he missed her, and sadly apologizes for leaving without even warning her. The father asks how she is doing. The elf woman replies that she is fine, but admits that she worries about her village. He returned to Rhonda and said that he was able to calm down when he learned that he had a beloved. The elder introduced himself as Ulam and asked everyone to simply call him Ol. He explains that recently monsters attacked the village, so now every stranger causes distrust and caution among the locals. The man offers Rhonda to move to a house standing on the edge of the village. He also says, if she has a friend she wants to invite, let her bring him along. He promises to listen carefully to both of them and hear their whole story. Having listened to everything to the end, the elf confidently said that he knows where they need to go and where it is better not to go at all. He says that the kingdom is now divided, and if they make a mistake with the direction, then returning back, they could get into big trouble. The elder makes a proposal. He will show them a safe path out of the forest, but in return asks to help the elves defeat the demonic bear. Moreover, if the bear monsters have started behaving more aggressively, it means that the demonic bear is behind it. Since they are the protectors of the forest, they cannot simply ignore this trouble. He turns to Rhonda and tells her that his magic is actually an illusion, not real magic. Mari was surprised why the elves entrusted such a request specifically to a human, but the elder explained, if you were an ordinary human, they would never have come for help. He explains that usually, when Cut brought someone, that person was immediately killed. Then he asks Mari if she can say why this time everything went differently. The man sees a spirit sitting on Rhonda's head and says that they protect her. The hero does not understand anything, so the elder begins to explain. Since ancient times, those who have unusual but not magical powers are highly valued by spirits, and for elves, such people are considered special. When the villagers noticed spirits starting to appear around the boy, they realized, before them stands a truly good person. Ron asked Cuda if she had ever seen ghosts in his house. Mari said that it was precisely because of this that she was sure nothing would happen to Ron. The elf apologized to her for leaving her alone. The woman suggests to the boy to accept Ul's invitation and fight monsters together, but he considers it too dangerous and decides to go alone. The girl admits that she is tired of waiting alone, so now she also wants to go with him. Ron warns her that unknown monsters may await them ahead. Mari responds by recalling how recently they fought together against bee warriors. She explained that poisonous magic is not very effective when there are many opponents. Therefore, now it is better for her to use wind magic. The girl addresses the elder and asks how exactly the monster hunt will take place. Ul explained that elves are divided into groups of 3 to 4 people to hunt and protect the village together. He suggested that Ron and Mari become part of the hunter's team. He notes that it will be difficult to understand the elves immediately, so he offers Mari to take her team under the status of a free squad. Mari agrees to this proposal. The elder explains that Zill's team will soon set out on a journey as the second group. This is a good opportunity to join them and ask Zill about the monsters along the way. Rondon Mari comes across a group of elves, among whom are 3 experienced hunters. One of them looks very irritated and is outraged that they will have to go together with humans. He tells the boy and girl that the naked monsters have become much stronger and warns them not to lose vigilance. The elf was already about to leave and asks Ron where he plans to go next. In response, Ron offers to join the elves as he is interested in seeing for himself how they fight monsters. Zil looks indifferently at the boy and advises him to act as he wishes. Kudu does not like such coldness from the elf, and Rondon sighs with relief. At least now they are somewhat informed. The hero asks in surprise why Sova sent his daughter on a hunting mission. The elf calmly replies that for her father everyone is equal, family is no more important to him than other people. But still Kut thinks that her father is probably very nervous right now and imagines all sorts of unnecessary things. Mari says that the monsters must be dealt with as soon as possible, then the owl will be able to calm down. Ran agrees with her. Unexpectedly, the friends allow Roar to take the initiative. At that moment, Elf notices that Zil and his team have already encountered monsters. 3 bears in massive armor confidently walk towards the elves. Rond looks worriedly at the huge monsters and asks Kudai if they will come to help them. The girl calmly replies that the hunters will handle such creatures on their own. One of the elves calls upon the spirit, invoking its power, and creates a mighty whirlwind that attacks the enemies. So this object cuts off one of the bear's paws. Rory was amazed. The gust of wind turned out to be much stronger than the one she could create herself. Another elf girl bravely enters the battle with the monster. She calls upon the spirits for help and uses water magic. Her spell hits the monster's eye directly, piercing it through. Then she uses her power to lift the water and form a transparent water sphere around the enemy's head. The enemy begins to suffocate because he cannot breathe inside this bubble. Zil is already preparing to attack the last bear. He asks the man to watch the battle of the elves, while he himself prepares to use fire magic. A strong stream of flame lifted the bear into the air and completely engulfed it in fire. The monster fell to the ground, scorched to the core, and Zil smiled and looked at Rhonda. Kutta enthusiastically praised the elf, and Mari added that it was no wonder Zil is called a true genius of spirit magic among the elves. The elf sternly says that humans are not capable of this, and insists that they leave their forest immediately. Ron mentally marvels. This is how warrior elves fight, relying on their magical spirit power. Their strength and destructive energy are truly incredible. This is a whole different level. If the demonic bear defeats such mighty elves, then its power is truly terrifying.